Hey, it's Webs here, and it's time for a very cute deck in the form of cute Questline Demon Hunter. Originally, I was going to do something on Smokescreen or Curse of Agni, but I saw this as a suggestion for a budget deck within Hearthstone, and I thought it was a really neat idea because I didn't actually originally think when I saw the card of Razorglaive Sentinel to do a deck like this where you're actually trying to make a cute style deck in Demon Hunter instead of Rogue. And while I'll visit those cards in the future, I wanted to do something with this just because it was a neat little idea, and I thought there was an easy way to actually improve the deck, which was to include the questline in the deck itself, as Razorglaive actually allows you to complete your questline in one turn, to my shock, especially when it's this early in the game, as seen in the clip behind me right now. We actually complete the entire quest on turn 4, which is absolutely insane. Our opponent had no way to answer something like this. No one is going to have any type of answers on turn 4 for an entire questline completed in one turn. You have to be pretty good with managing how quickly you place down cards to do something like this, but it is absolutely possible. The second major change between my list and the budget list is Kazakusan. If you have the rest of the mini set cards, this is a card that you probably want to include in a deck like this. You draw through your deck so incredibly fast that even if you're not running any other dragons in the deck, this serves as a backup plan so you can actually have more feel for your deck once you complete your quest line with all the rewards. And speaking of the questline rewards, while the last step of the questline is actually important to complete sometimes, most of the time the most important steps are going to be the first step and the second step, because you can actually play a lot more cards if you realize that some of your cards are going to be discounted whenever you draw into more cards with Sentinel, thus allowing you to get some really early game brutes actually out on the board, or allow you to actually use your combo a lot earlier than you might actually think you could, as seen in the clip that I had shown before, where I actually complete the entire quest line on turn 4, which was absolutely insane. And that is actually kind of a common occurrence with this deck. If you can actually get a Sentinel early on in the game and actually trigger your questline reward with the Sentinel, you're probably going to end up winning the game. Your opponent is going to be so far behind you that there's no real catching up. What I'm trying to say, this is not the easiest deck in the world to actually pilot. So if you're not really used to the deck and you want something to just win you games instantly without trying to figure it out, this is probably not going to be a deck for you. Otherwise, this is a perfect deck. I think this might not be the best list for the deck. There's probably going to be some changes here and there in the future. But for right now, as a day 1 deck, it's actually a pretty good deck to actually try out. Let's get into the Mulligan guide now, shall we? The Razorglaive Sentinel is always a card you want to keep in your opening hand. This card will allow you to do insane combos really quickly, and that's the reason why you actually are running this deck anyways. So you want to make sure if you see one of these, always keep it. 2, you don't need to, just mulligan it away. Of course, you're keeping your quest line, but other than that, you're looking for cards like Double Jump or Sigil Runner as other additional draw powers so you can actually draw into more cards. Spectral Sight is also a great card to keep in your opening hand just so you can have more draw power if it's the leftmost card besides the quest line. Or if it's the rightmost card and you have like a 1 cost or a 2 cost that you don't mind actually placing down beforehand. Cards you want to absolutely avoid keeping in your opening hand are things like Philosophy, Irebound Brutes, Kazakusan. These will all brick your hand and won't allow you to actually go off with a Razorglaive combo as quickly as you would want. But they are used as win conditions within the deck, and they are absolutely necessary for something like this to actually run. So now that we've went over the deck a little bit, let's go find some games. Alright, time for a game against Priest. Seeing a Razorglaive Sentinel in the opening hand is really good. Seeing the other 2 cards in the opening hand is really bad. We're going to mulligan those both away. We get another Sentinel, which is pretty shitty, but oh well. We do get a Tiny Fin, which is feel for both of the Sentinels, which is pretty nice. The issue is we have to get through both Sentinels to actually get the Tiny Fin to actually draw us a card, unless the other card on the right is going to be even lower than this, but I very much doubt it. Okay, so we have the coin. Okay, so they're not questline. It's at least one priest deck out of the way. We're going to use our questline. This hand isn't the worst that I've seen with this deck, but it definitely is not near the best. Okay, so Demonic Companion is interesting, but is kind of not that useful here. We're going to use it just to try to get the charge minion, and then we're going to use our Sigil. Okay, so palm reading still doesn't give us an idea of what they're actually playing. Our Sigil will trigger, we draw 2. Drawing a second Sigil, which is pretty nice, and then we can draw 2 more. Kazakusan this early is really bad still, though it does get discounted by the Questline, which is actually pretty decent. Because it's opening day, I'm assuming it's just going to be Dragon Priest. I faced so many Dragon Priests while playing this deck, it isn't even funny. Okay, another palm reading doesn't really tell us anything yet. But I think everyone's just excited to use a card like Kazakusan, and it is Dragon Priest. That actually shouldn't really shock me at all. They're going to kill our minion, and then we should be able to hero power to kill the other minion. We're going to draw something with Insight. Okay, so we're going to draw an additional card here. We can actually use one of the Sentinels to just get some cards drawn, because we do have a bunch of 0-cost cards to help fuel our hand. Getting the Sigil as a top deck is pretty nice, because it's another 0 cost. Though that is a 1 cost, and we're going to have to coin out something for it. We're going to grab Sigil Runner, because we wouldn't have a draw card the other way. We get a discount on Spectral Sight, so we draw more cards. And then we basically just stop here. We can put Rush down on the broomsticks to kill the 2-1, just so we can try to protect our Sentinel, but it probably will die next turn. Doesn't really matter, we do have our second one in hand. Okay, so it doesn't die, which is good news for us. Okay, so what do we draw here? A Sigil Runner, actually pretty nice to see. Gonna play the demon in the middle of the hand just because I don't want to overcap, since we'll be drawing 2 here. Okay, we get another demon. And I kind of wanted to try to get it where we could use our philosophy without actually worrying, but I guess we're not going to be able to do that. We're going to use philosophy now, so we can actually just have a bunch of brutes in our hand, and then just go face. Because the next turn, they're probably going to kill our Sentinel anyways. So we're going to force them to make that decision instead of doing the decision ourselves. The 4 brutes, or 3 brutes in hand, actually look really nice right about now. We do have the second Sentinel, so we can actually play that next turn. The idea is just to draw through as much as our deck as we humanly can. Okay, so the brutes go back to 8. Which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. We're going to put down the second Sentinel, because the only other choice would be put the Acrobatics down, and that would have drawn us 2 cards. We're going to use Double Jump, get a Soul Fragment from... 2 Soul Fragments from the Sentinel, a Desk Imp, which is pretty decent, and we didn't have any Outcast minions left in the deck. Just going to put down the Imp because I did not realize we completed our quest line right there, and then we're going to hero power and pass the turn back. It's so cool to see like Dragon Priest be revived in this mini set, but at the same time, I was really hoping to actually make value of Dragon Moss Sentinel before it rotated out, and I don't think you would want to include it in a deck like that right now. Okay, there's our last brute. We don't have any more minions in the deck, so we can just place down the Kazakusan here. We're going to choose Lotus, we're going to choose Presence and Vampiric Fangs, Krusty, and the Clockwork Assistant, just because A, we have a lot of spells that we've used, B, all the other cards have some type of answer to something they have on board. And then they're going to play their own Kazakusan. Not really that big of a shot given what deck it actually is. The really funny thing is, because of how our hand is set up, we can actually play our questline reward next turn and then draw 2 at a discounted rate, allowing us to clear out some of the board so we don't actually die on the following up turn. Okay, so they're just going to rush face, which I guess makes sense. They have to hope that we don't get anything interesting here. We did get the assistant, which is kind of alright. We're not going to play that one. We draw the second assistant, and then we draw a Crusty Crustacean, so we can actually kill one of their bigger minions, such as Kazakusan, and then we can attack into the 4/6 and then pass the turn back. Basically, all we're hoping for is them not to get a Tome of the Dead, just so they can't do 7 damage. It's happened before, but oh, actually we're very much out of lethal range as long as they don't have 2 of them. Okay, so they're going to kill most of our boards with a Hysteria, and then they have a Hyper Blaster. Now, the downside of having what minions we have in hand is the brutes are going to cost a bunch no matter what, and they have a poisonous weapon, actually 2 poisonous weapons if you really think about it. We're going to draw 2 off of the presence, getting another presence and another crustacean. We're going to eat the other minion. We're going to place down the clockwork, draw 2 more cards, and then we're probably going to actually use the vampiric fangs on one of the clockworks just because of the fact that we want to heal up a little bit so we're not in lethal range of them. Then we can place that down and then attack and pass the turn back. Sure, that might be a little bit of a mistake because they do have poisonous on their weapon, but we do have Locust in hand, which means if we survive 2 turns, we automatically win. As long as they clear out our board, that is. So they're going to kill our 16/16. They're going to play down Onyxia, which is not a card I want to see right about now, but depending on if we get the AoE silence, it might actually be a great sign. Okay, so we get the second Lotus. So here is a tough decision. I either need to mathematically figure out if we can die this turn, or we can just go face with the Locust. If we can go face with the Locust, we win. If we can't, then we lose. And if I remember right, I did the math, and there was no way they could actually kill us unless they had 2 Book of the Dead, which would have been 14 damage. And I'm just going to assume that they don't. Also, the other nice thing about this is, because their Onyxia is immune, we can actually just attack into the immune Onyxia with all of our Locusts, so we can actually play the second Locust and win the game next turn. So as long as they don't heal above 14, we actually win the game. Okay, they're going to use Banana Split, which gets them 2 more Onyxias, but that actually probably is a mistake, just because of the fact that they can't go face with them. And then they're going to freeze us, which is fine. We're still out of lethal range, and then they start attacking into the Locust, which is a huge mistake on their behalf. I don't know why they did this. It really makes me wonder why they did this. Maybe they thought they couldn't win no matter what anyway, so they were just going to clear it out themselves to complete like a quest or something. We're going to heal up by killing one of the Onyxias just because we can, and then we're going to use the Locust and then win the game that way. Hey, time for a game against Mage. So for this hand, we're probably going to mulligan away the Desk Imp, keeping the other 2 just because those are pretty good early game draw cards, so we can try to trigger a questline as quickly as possible. The second double jump is actually pretty good to see. It isn't the best in the world just because of the fact that it's going to be a little bit annoying getting to the Spectral Sight, but at the same time, it's not terrible. Though drawing into the second Spectral Sight there is actually pretty bad, which means our double jumps should either guarantee a Philosophy or a Sigil Runner whenever we do use them. Okay, there's the Sigil Runner, so we're going to use the Sigil Runner here. Draw 1 card. See what we get off the double jump. A Philosophy, okay, so we're going to double jump again and then draw the second Philosophy. I guess the odds were against us there, but it is what it is. We do have the 2 Spectral Sights in the leftmost position, which means we should be able to trigger one of them next turn. And if we draw into a Sentinel at any point, we're actually in a pretty good position because we have a bunch of 0-cost cards to actually use in combination. We're going to kill our minion. There's our Sentinel. That's actually a pretty good deck or card to actually draw into. There's the second Sentinel, which is a little bit worse, but it is what it is. Depending on how we actually want to do this, we could actually place it down next turn, but I think the correct play is going to be play it down in like 2 turns after we get the Spectral Sight out of hand. They are running some secret support, so they aren't necessarily Ping Mage, but I'm assuming they're probably going to be Ping Mage. We're going to use Spectral Sight, see what it is. It is Counterspell, which is a big shock to me just because I don't know when the last time I saw someone actually running Counterspell in a deck. Though we are going to be able to use the Sentinels in combination. It depends on what we draw off of the first draw from the Sentinel here too. Because if we draw into a Brute, we're probably going to want to place the Imp down before the Brute actually comes out. Okay, so we do get a Brute. We're probably going to play the Imp down first, then we're going to draw a card here. Then we're going to use Philosophy to draw another card, getting a Imp. We get a Sigil Runner, which is actually pretty decent. We can lower Demon, so we actually have to play the Demon. But first we're going to play the Broomstick, so we can clear out our board a little bit here. We're going to place the Demon down, draw an additional card here. Lion's Frenzy, which is alright to see. I don't actually like that card that much in this deck. Most of the time it just gets burnt by Kazakusan anyways, so we're going to play down our 2 or 3 Brutes and then attack into their minion, though I probably should have protected that minion. I don't think they have any way to answer. If they had 2 more mana, they could use their Fire Eye to answer, but they don't have enough mana for that. They're going to discount all the cards in their hand because of siphoned mana, which is definitely not something I want to see, but we do have another follow-up turn with the second Sentinel in our hand if we really feel like using it. Okay, they're going to use Devolving Missiles, which doesn't actually do anything against us. Like, we discounted those cards, so what's the point? We're going to just go face, and then we're going to play the Frenzy just to get it out of hand, and then next turn we can follow up with a Sentinel play, just because we now have 3 cards lined up for the Sentinel that all cost 0, which should allow us to actually complete the questline. But I honestly don't think it matters at this point. It does allow us to draw a shit ton more cards and have a bigger Frenzy, but okay, they're going to use Fire Sail to try to kill our board. Arcane Brilliance, okay. And they give up. Time for a game against Paladin. Okay, seeing a Sentinel in the opening hand is pretty decent. We're going to Mulligan away the Tiny Fin, probably. Actually, we might keep the Tiny Fin just because of the fact that it would be instant fodder for the Sentinel, but we ended up mulliganing it away. Double Jump is actually pretty decent to see here too, especially when we draw into a Sigil for our turn. That will guarantee us 1 step, I think, on turn 3, no matter what. Acrobatics, which is alright. We're going to Hero Power, then use our Sigil. Pass the turn back. Okay, so we would love to be able to get rid of that minion, though I don't know how possible something like that's going to be. Getting a Philidari Studies, we're going to grab the Sigil Runner just so we can again guarantee a step here. Okay, a Spectral Sight. Don't even have to go into Double Jump. Drawing 2 cards here. Let's hope for a charge minion out of Demon Companion. Or we're just going to use the Spirit Jailer instead. Okay, so they're clearing out our board a little bit. Here's the Spirit or Double Jump. Second Philosophy, which is not something we want to see. I do the math wrong here and miss the quest line by 1. I forgot it was 5 instead of 4, but it is what it is. We're going to grab the Skull of Gul'dan just because I thought next turn I could coin it out maybe or do something with it, but it just depends if we draw into a 0-cost card here or not. Though we do have a good Sentinel play next turn if we really feel like doing that. Probably going to be the correct play because we are going to get a little bit low if we don't. Okay, so there's the Irebound Brute. We're going to go for the Sentinel play. Okay, so we got a Taunt, which is not really that good. We're going to get a Sigil Runner plus a Wing of Hatred, which is discounted here. So we can draw more cards. Spectral Sight. Going to use Philosophy, which draws us more cards and then makes it where we can actually use our brutes, so we can place 2 of them down. Okay, they're going to just play down a unbuffed Samuro, killing our 1/1s, which is actually really nice for us, given the fact that we don't want them on board. And this is what I mean by Wings of Hatred being able to actually benefit with the broomstick, just so we can kill a minion. We're going to use Wings of Hatred plus the broomstick, which gets us the Taunt Dead, drawing into a 0-cost minion, which is nice, and the second Sentinel, which we don't technically need right now, but it is an option. We don't want to draw through our deck too quickly. We do want the Kazakusan to be still online, but we don't need to go into fatigue if we can help it. We're going to get the Lion's Frenzy a little bit too late, getting the questline reward, which is fine. We can place down the second brute if we really feel like it, and then pass the turn back. I'm going to use Cariel. Okay, so you're going to kill one of the brutes with Cariel. You're going to attack into the other one, then pass the turn back. We're going to use the questline reward here no matter what. Place down the imp. I think I'm doing this because Kazakusan isn't online yet. I think he is now that we drew into Sigil Runner, so we do have him next turn. We're just going to go face here. And I think we do kill the Cariel with the Sentinel just because of the fact we don't need the Sentinel this turn. But we can kill one of their minions and hero power into the other one, and then pass the turn back. The fact that we've went through our questline reward and most of our deck by turn 7 is actually pretty insane. I know it isn't the best result I've ever had with this deck, but it's still a big threat. They're going to attack into the 7-2. They're gonna, or our Sigil is going to trigger. We're going to play Kazakusan instantly because we have nothing else to do this turn. We could draw the last few cards, but I honestly don't care. We're going to choose the Gnomish Knife, Looming Presence, Wand of Disintegration, and Locust, and the Banana Split probably. Use 1 card so we can actually draw into another one. Now all we need is to draw into like 2 more cards and we're perfectly fine. We can actually use Skull of Vildan next turn to draw 3 cards. Okay, so they're going to put down their Libram of Hope. That's not going to be a very hopeful Libram, if you know what I mean. We're going to draw 3 cards, drawing into the Wand of Disintegration, just what we needed. Then we can use it and then use the knife and go face and win the game. And now for the game that I wasn't going to include, but there's no way I could not include a game like this. Okay, so we're going to mulligan everything but our questline away. We're going to play the questline down turn 1. Our hand actually looks really good for the questline, so no worries there. Okay, so that can be a little bit worrisome. We do have the answer to it in our hand, which is the Silence. But I want to try to bait out some type of buff on it before I do use the Silence. Okay, there's our Sentinel. That's actually a really early Sentinel. We're going to use our AoE Silence, draw a card, getting Philosophy, which sucks, but it is what it is. Drawing 2 more from the Spectral Sight. Having a Sigil to play down next, and then pass the turn back. We're going to get a little bit of damage in, which is fine. We're going to silence their minion, and then draw 2 here. Getting another Sigil, which is actually pretty good. And a Irebound. We're going to use Philosophy, which gets us an Imp, so we can draw an additional card. This is one of the only times that I ever used it to actually get us an Imp, just because I wanted to have additional cards to draw. So we draw 2 more here, and we just keep going off. There's nothing that can stop us here. We're going to use our Sigil again. Now we have a Irebound Brute that is 0 cost, a Spirit Hunter that's 0 cost, and then we keep on drawing. Just draw the entire deck. Get a buff here. And now we completed the entire quest in 1 turn on turn 4. This is the absolute best possibility that I could have ever hoped for with a deck like this. What are they going to do? Try to kill our board? They're Hunter. They have no way to do that. I think the only class that might be able to come out of this is maybe Priest. And they give up. Alright, now that we're through the games, let's discuss my final thoughts of the deck. So overall, this deck is actually incredibly fun to actually play. Being able to just spam out a bunch of cards is really insane. So if you liked a deck like Cute Rogue, this is the perfect deck for you. I did try out some other cards that were stereotypically found in Cute Rogue, such as the Frostwolf Warmaster, I think it's called. But that was too many high cost cards to actually always rely on getting discounted, and Irebound Brutes are just a better version of that anyways, so you didn't really want to run it. And for a day one deck, this is actually a pretty strong deck. I do think there's some improvements that can be made here and there. Maybe not use acrobatics, maybe use glide or something like that. Wings of Hate, I don't know if these actually are that good in the deck. And if you're going to cut them, then you can also cut the animated broomstick. But the reason why the animated broomstick is in here is because you have a lot of 1 HP minions that you need to kill so you can actually place down your Irebound Brutes. And that's honestly a really impactful way to clear out some of your board when it fills up with a bunch of 1/1s. But overall, this deck is really strong for what it is. And I am going to be shocked if something like this doesn't become meta relevant in the future. However, from one day of testing, a card like Kazakusan has made it very clear that if the game is slow enough for this card to actually see some play, everyone is going to run this card. It's so easy to get the condition off in a deck like this, or a deck that just runs very few minions, that it isn't even funny, and it's not really a hard requirement to fulfill, which might be a little bit problematic, because I know from past experience, Blizzard likes to nerf cards like this. So get games in with decks similar to this that can abuse Kazakusan as much as humanly possible before he does get nerfed into oblivion, because I have a weird sneaking suspicion this is probably the target that's going to get hit if there's any nerfs coming out for this mini set. That all being said, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, bye bye.